My name is Joseph Daniel Marsili. I was born on April 26, 1989, to Donna Marsili and Ken Kurtenbach. My mother had a total of 9 kids, and growing up with 8 siblings was a different experience than most people had. She had her firstborn when she was 21 years old, and her last when she was 41.
Well, my relationship with Joseph was a little different than most sibling relationships since there was such an age difference between us. My mom had to work a lot, so I took on more of a parenting role with him and helped raise him and watch him while my mom was at work. And then when I became pregnant and had my son, Joseph and Gino were pretty close in age, and they spent a lot of time together and grew up together. And they probably had more of a sibling relationship than what I had with Joseph.
My mother had 2 sets of twins, her first 2 and her last 2. Me and my twin brother Joshua are the youngest of the 9. I was born 10 minutes before him, so technically he's the youngest and I'm the second youngest. The other pair of twins, my oldest brother and sister, are 41 years old. Between me and them, there's a 20-year difference, and by the time I was 1, I was already an uncle. To date, I have a total of 14 nieces and nephews. And in January of 2011, I'll become a great uncle to my first great niece and nephew. Growing up, I was never close with my father's side of the family, but my mother's side was always close. The baby in the middle was my mother, being held by my great-grandmother, Adela Villani. Her and my great-grandfather, Contedo Villani, came to this country from Italy and settled in Rockford, Illinois. And 3 generations later, our family is still here. These are my grandparents, Jenny Villani and David Marsili. I was never able to meet them because by the time I was born, they had both passed away. My grandfather died from a heart attack in 1967, and my grandmother 5 years later in 72 from cancer.
My parents came from Italy, which would be Joseph's great-grandparents. My parents had 6 children, and the one daughter that they had was Joseph's grandmother. She died at a young age, so Joseph did not know her, didn't know her grandparents at all.
So we were asked to be their grandparents for a class that they had in school. And we were very privileged to represent my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law and as their grandparents. So we enjoyed it very much, and we got to love the whole family. If Grandma was here, she sure would have enjoyed her family, which she always did.
She would be very proud of Joseph.
And Josh.
My mother and father divorced when I was 3 years old. She raised us all on her own while working 40 hours a week at a department store. She always managed to get through check to check and make sure we had everything we needed for school and at home. Sometimes it was hard for her to keep up, but as we got older, we were able to help with the bills, so that made things a little easier. When I was 16 years old, I dropped out of high school. And on the day of my 18th birthday, I got my first full-time factory job. But that job didn't last too long. I was just a temporary worker, and after my 90 days were up, they laid me off and brought in different ones. So from the time I was 18 until I was 20, I worked in factory after factory after factory. And for the most part, they were all through temp agencies, so it was the same story over and over again. But at the end of 2009, I was doing my taxes, and I seen that I had 14 W-2 forms for that 1 year. That's when I realized that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And I remember what my mother told me. She said the one thing she wished she could go back and do differently is go to college and get a career. So I took her advice, and I got my GED. And then my brother told me about a class at Rock Valley that he was teaching that I'd probably be interested in, since I was always into music and had questions for him related to audio. And now I'm going to Rock Valley. And if everything goes as planned, at the end of 2011, I'll have my Associates of Arts degree and my Mass Communication certificate. I plan on going to school somewhere in Chicago and trying to find a career in the audio field. But right now I think I'm on the right path. I'm going to an affordable school with great teachers and great peers. I know it's not gonna be easy. Nobody ever said it was gonna be. But how will you make it if you never even try?